at all cost. And we want to say, as we start a new year, that there shall be no more abduction in this year of 2025.
Busia County, a section of youth from the area assembled at Senator Okiya Mtata's home where they faulted President Ruto for allegedly cultivating a culture of abductions and kidnappings.
We would demand that the release of our youths unconditionally. And if that does not happen,
This new year, say yes to a new world of entertainment on Star Times. Enjoy the finest family entertainment. Enjoy digital life. Enjoy digital life.
Angukia welcome bonus. Only on Mozart. Karibishwa kama mgeni. Register now on mozartbet.co.ke to angukia free bets under free spins bonanza. Kuwa mshindi. Mozartbet.
Welcome back. I'm glad you're still watching K24's Evening Edition. My name is Joel Chacha. Our sign language interpreter is Walter Asawe. Now, President William Ruto used his New Year address to highlight the government's achievements while responding to recent public protests and police conduct. The president acknowledged the challenges Kenyans have faced in 2024, but insisted progress is evident as the country enters 2025. Here is Brian Amwai with the details.
In his New Year speech, President William Ruto reflected on 2024 as a year marked by economic challenges, political uncertainty and security threats. He admitted that implementing tough economic measures led to public discontent, but emphasized their necessity for long-term stability. The president urged Kenyans to support government's efforts while calling for accountability in the management of public resources.
We needed a coherent plan to address these obstacles, deliver the transformation of our nation's needs, and provide every Kenyan with the opportunities they deserve. The magnitude of challenge demanded bold, decisive, and unfaltering efforts from all of us.
On the protests that dominated March of 2024, President Ruto defended the security agencies' actions, stating they often faced a delicate balance between maintaining order and protecting democratic freedoms.
It is crucial to remember that every freedom has its limits, and that public safety and order must always supersede the desire of unchecked liberty. We must ensure that our pursuit of rights and freedoms does not compromise our collective or individual safety, nor should we allow criminals to exploit constitutional rights to harm and destroy other people.
He also acknowledged incidents of excessive force and assured Kenyans that accountability measures are underway.
It cannot be denied, ladies and gentlemen, that there has been instances of excessive and extrajudicial actions by members of the security services. At the same time, it must also be acknowledged that due process is underway in appropriate institutions to ensure accountability.
Amid the challenges, the president celebrated key achievements, including a strengthening shilling, inflation dropping to historic lows, and advancement in universal healthcare through the Taifa Care program. He also pointed to progress in affordable housing, digital service delivery, and the Hustler Fund as evidence of government success. Looking ahead, the president promised increased job opportunities, higher farm yields, and further economic growth in 2025. The president issued the message while in Kisii. Brian Amwai, K24.
Now, the year 2024 was marked by protests as Kenyans took to the streets to protest against the Finance Bill 2024. The protests had faces and names that became synonymous with the Gen Z demonstrations. And one of those faces is Kasmuel Mcoure. He became a darling of his peers, but his latest political moves have had him being labeled a traitor. Tonight, he sits down with Brian Amwai to reflect on the year 2024 and why he thinks he did not betray the Gen Z movement.
All right, tonight we speak to Kasmuel Mcoure on the year 2024, a year that has seen a lot happening in the country. Kasmuel, thank you so much for making time tonight.
Thank you for having me, Amwai.
All right, we start with this one. You were the face of the Gen Z protest from June all the way to August 2024, when the country experienced a movement like we've never seen before. But you are darling of the people from that particular onset. Right now, people seem to have disassociated themselves with you to some extent, calling you a traitor and a sellout. Are you a sellout?
No, first of all. But also, I was one of the many faces, because remember, this was an organic movement that was faceless as one of its qualities. I wouldn't want to lay claim to that title. However, there might have been impactful things that I did for the movement, and I'm happy to make that contribution. With regards to the question of being a sellout, I would need context for that, because I have not in any way sidestepped any of the ideals that I was fighting for. I still am very much a part of the movement, fighting for good governance, accountability, and the war on corruption.
So on the issue of sellout, a lot of people believe that your latest moves when it comes to joining the opposition, if you may, you are seen photographed with Raila Odinga, to some extent joining the ODM party. You have been seen with the president at a church service somewhere in Rift Valley. And your association with the political class, especially matters to do with government. So when they look at that, and yet during the protest, that's what you are championing for, you are rallying against as far as the political class is concerned. So what do you say to that first? For me, it got to a point which I made it very clear to the public, because these were not private moves. I declared that I was shifting now to a political front, because after the impeachment of the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who has gained a bit of notoriety and is trying to whip up emotions all over the country, I realized that there was something far bigger at play, especially politically. And I say this because there are underpinnings of tribalism, especially towards me. And I remember that day, the turning point was I expected Kenyans to be there. I expected Kenyans to not just say these things that they were saying online, but to actually come and say them on the ground. But when that did not happen, and I remember online there was a faction of people who now turned this into a tribal tirade. And I said I would want to learn how to navigate these murky waters politically, because I said I want to offer myself for leadership. And this is a resolution I had made back in 2022. When you say tribal tirade,
yes.
You experienced that online, especially as this process was continuing, especially the issue to do with the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. What did you pick from that made you question the direction that this was taking?
There was the people that I've bemoaning it the most are the people who went tribal with it, because the moment I saw there were tribal tirades, and the people actually who sold us this regime, remember some of this regime's fiercest campaigners have now turned to be its biggest opponents. And these are people who are only speaking out because they have no positions in government. Take the example of the impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who's suddenly now going around saying that, giving single names of people who are in charge of abductions and whatnot. The funny thing is, when we were being abducted, when we were being killed, he said nothing. He was happy with the status quo then. So him suddenly starting to oppose government does not make him a good leader. And two, part of the people, and sometimes I call them thiefluencers, they wanted to push certain agendas, and they were disgruntled that they were not the ones in the limelight. And so I said that for the best and for the purity of my constituency, because there is quite a good number of people who still believe in me. To them, I tell them, we have tried the streets. We have done media shows, and we've done all sorts of TV interviews. We've done both local and international media. The thing that I had not attempted to do was dialogue. And that's now the approach that I took when now I started being featured with the opposition leader, who's my party leader, His Excellency Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And suddenly I'm looking into taking a different direction for this national dialogue in the coming year, where we have to sit down with the powers that be, because if this is truly a broad-based government, it must, by Jove, it must include the youth. It must find ways of including us in the governance structure, and this is now what I'm pursuing. I'm telling my people that you have seen me on the streets, I have always delivered. You have seen me in the newsrooms, I have always delivered. But the thing that we have not been able to do is to actually sit down and dialogue this political class. If that fails, then we will go back to the streets.
All right, there's an interview you did some time back in the heat and in the process, during the protest rather, that was on the 27th of July. And, you know, you're talking about dialogue, but on that particular interview you said we cannot show up to dialogue tables when
our
majority
friends
of us
keep on showing up
on autopsy tables. We do not want dialogue. Our demands are very simple and do not need a conversation. They only need action. What changed between then and now?
It would be remiss for us to assume that nothing has changed, especially politically, because remember, at the time we were fighting against the finance bill, which was thrown away altogether. Then there was the cabinet dissolution and reshuffle. And by the point where now I'm talking about dialogue, a lot has happened in the country politically. And I cannot, with a clear conscience, lead the children of the poor and the working poor to demonstrations which I do not have clear ends to. And this is part of what I would say we had as a misstep. When we were united, because a lot of the people who were on the streets were not united by ideology. We were united by the issues. And now when it got to the point where I realized everybody wanted to drive any particular kind of agenda, there are people who are obsessed with fundraising and grant writing, who just wanted us to be in the streets for the sake of chaos. I said, I cannot withstand having us lose any other young lives to this rogue police system that needs a lot of reform without a clear goal. Because right now, I cannot quite concretely say, because part of the issues that we have, I think that can be articulated better. Because at this point, the things that we had said, we are seeing some steps, but then we're also seeing such a huge lapse in communication. We're also seeing such a huge lapse in the governance structure, and we're saying that we want to be part of that process. And now when you see me, and I've been talking about the youth involving themselves in political processes, now having joined the Orange Democratic Movement, targeting specifically the Youth League, because Youth Leagues, time without number, even if you look about the revolutions in history, they've always been driven by the youth involving themselves in the politics. So I want to involve myself in the politics of this country. And this does not mean that I want to be rewarded by being given an elective position. If I can influence change just within this youth league that I've been trying to vie for, or within youth-led spaces, then that will be enough for me. So me showing up to the dialogue tables now, the circumstances are very different. Because by the time I'm talking about dialogue, right now I've seen that going to the streets is costly to us. And the people who are driving us to the streets, a lot of them are just there to whip up emotions. There are people who never show up to the streets. I do not want that to happen. If it's about doing mandamano, people know. I do not shy away, and I will go into the streets. We go to the streets consistently, but now I just want to, it's a change of tact, not a change in principle. It's just a change in tact.
Well, talking about principle, because some people would argue that you always had a price from the beginning. It's just that the biggest bidder had not yet come on the table.
Right, then the biggest bidder has not yet come on the table, because the biggest bidder is the people of Kenya. And as long as, and this is why I keep on talking about the people who believe in me, and to them, they know very clearly, because I've explained this time without number, that now this is the direction I shall take, because we have to change tact. I believe it's Jaramogi who said, the strongest individual cannot fight the weakest government. For me, it's about being tactful. It's not just chaos for the sake of being seen. If it's about the name being there, I don't need to be famous with this. I just need our country to work. This is the only, I'm one of the people who believe that I want to be wealthy here in this country. I do not want to go outside the country and live a dream life. I want to build the Kenyan dream. And that includes partnering with existing structures, demolishing the structures that do not work, calling out the government if it's not working. But it includes an intergenerational dialogue. For me, I'm not just seeing it in isolation. I'm not just seeing this as a Gen Z thing. Because remember, even a lot of these people who are pretending to be generals of war, they are not even in this age demographic, for crying out loud. Now I'm sitting down with people who are older than me. They're teaching me how to become a Gen Z. I'm like, why didn't you do this thing during your time? If there's a thing which you feel that you should have done it in your time. For me, I will sit here and allow me to grow in my own process. This is the path that I've seen has been always sustainable. And for me, it's about the people of Kenya. That's what it is for me.
The people of Kenya right now are very disgruntled. They are lamenting about the issues to do with abductions in the country that are actually on the rise. I was checking your social media platforms, and you've not been as vocal as you used to be. What's happening?
One, I have taken a break from social media. And I think the last time I posted anything was on Christmas, and that was because of a service. But I took a step back because towards the end of the year, I usually like to wind the year down. If there's anything which cannot be subjected to politics, if cannot be subjected to activism, it is the dignity of human life. Any enforced disappearances, any abductions are illegal, and they have no place in our country. They have no place in any democracy whatsoever. So this is a thing which I will not shy away from calling out. Okay. It's just that I do not know, because remember, I'm a private citizen. I'm not elected yet into office. I'm just wondering, we have an entire parliament that's gone on recess, that has not called back the House to order for an emergency meeting. We have an entire Senate, which is the upper house, has not called out an emergency meeting. Then you see them planning all these sorts of gimmicks, trying to walk around and politicize things around human rights. But it is us, the young people, who are suffering. It is we, the young people, who are being abducted and forcefully disappeared. People are, by Jove, being disappeared just for drawing cartoons. And we have an entire governance structure. I'm not in any way right now being paid by the taxpayer. This is work that is supposed to be done by our government, from the executive to the legislature to the judiciary. But a lot of them, they're just out there hoping that the citizenry will take care of it. I'm happy to pursue this issue, and it's something which, for me, I'm very passionate about. I will never stop talking about the horrors of abduction, and they should end in this country. Okay. But by Jove, we also have to hold our government accountable.
So how do we hold the government accountable in this particular sense? Right now, we are talking about the issue to do with abductions in the country. We have a broad-based government, if you may. Your party leader is in that particular government. You yourself have said, this is something that you want to pursue as far as dialogue is concerned. The head of state has come out to talk about the issue of abductions, but nothing seems to be happening. So how do we have that particular conversation around the issue that young people are raising in this particular country, if at all the government is not even listening, and even dialogues that we want to actually pursue might not actually be, giving us fruits that we want?
I think, first of all, in this broad-based government, my party leader is not a part of it, because it is not a coalition government. This is not like the time he became prime minister or in a coalition government. He has not entered a coalition government with President William Ruto. So my party leader and his ideals...
It's not on paper, but the actions can actually be seen as...
just also now, because I can only speak about the things that I know and the facts as they are and the things that I know. But by and large, besides that, as young people, and as a young person myself, I'm talking about approaches that I have tried. Okay. And the only approach that I have not tried is the approach of dialogue. I'm not saying that we should unanimously now try the path of dialogue. There's nothing illegal about the right of assembly that is enshrined in the Constitution in Article 37. Our assembly, protests, demonstrations, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, now that I'm going, and remember I made this a public declaration that now I will treat this as a political problem as it is. Okay. So pursuing it from at that angle, and that's why I was very specific and very categorical in joining the Orange Democratic Movement, because I'm looking at human rights. I'm looking at a party that has consistently agitated for the rights of the people. A pro-people party, which we believe is a government in waiting. And I believe that there are some headways that we can make. Okay. I have not tried this approach, and that's why I said I will very vigorously, starting 2025, champion a national dialogue from the youth to the government. Okay. This fight is far from over, and our revolution, and remember, it is not a sprint, it's a marathon. We've done that part, and for me, I consistently say that I cannot in good conscience bear to see another poor man's child, my brother, my sister, could be parent, lover, or whatever, die again by the bullet in something that we could have solved through dialogue and proper structures. Okay. That's the other thing which a lot of the people who want to lead people to protest, because people want to rally and ramp up support online, and they never show up themselves. For me, I've said, if I'm to lead a protest, I shall be there, regardless. I shall. And I've always proven this. I've never missed a protest. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Did you attend the one that was happening on today?
Oh, funny thing, yes.
Online, people are saying that you did not attend.
Well, I mean,
you are nowhere to be seen.
Again, that's the same thing people said about the march against femicide. Of course, I was a bit reserved, and I was a bit behind. But anytime there's a protest, I'm usually where the protest is. Okay. I never shy away from appearing from any protest. Of course, this time I had to stay away from cameras because of whatever the online sentiment has been. But I'm always on the ground for protests.
The sentiments online, what I was reading online in terms of people were saying, ukiona Kasmuel tumchape.
Right.
What do you make of that?
I think that is losing the point. Because in fighting the monster that we're trying to fight, we must be very careful not to become that monster. And if violence is to be turned by to private citizens, because I'm not employed, nobody has elected me into office, nobody has given me any portfolio. What I have been doing is volunteering my time and skills. And if anything, the people who I've been on the front lines with, time past, these are people who have been, this is their career to them. For me, my career ended in June when I went for the protests and I lost work, and I've just been living by grace. And these are people who've consistently been afforded to go outside the country for tours. They've been able to increase their portfolios. They've been able to buy more assets. And I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I want to change this country, and I'm still giving, I'm talking to you as I speak. Yeah. If I was not part of the lucky people who had a bunch of savings, I don't know where I would be. So and this is that sentiment of people trying to portray this. If we try to turn away from the problem, I think that is cowardice. Because if you look at me and you think that I'm the problem, and we have a bigger monster, which is corruption, lack of accountability amongst our leaders, the plundering of state resources and bad governance. If you can turn against a fellow citizen and politicize this issue and think, I am the enemy, I think you have your priorities wrong. That is just a little sect of the online community. But for me, it's just the tinkling of a symbol.
Okay, how do you earn the trust of the people that, you know, you seem to have fallen out of favor with, especially the online community? Some people are saying, I cannot listen to somebody who is a liar. They still believe you are a betrayer, you betrayed the movement, you betrayed the Gen Z. What do you say to that? How do you earn their trust if at all you claim that you're still in that particular movement?
Again, this movement is not owned by people, it's Kenyan owned. There are people who still believe in me. To those I say, asante sana. Okay. To people who have other feelings, for me, this is a revolution. A revolution is not a popularity contest. I'm not here to be popular, to be more popular than the other. I'm not here to suffer the comparison of saying A versus B, B versus C, or C versus D. I'm here to urge you to fight for your country, because we must be united by the issues. Because I cannot be united, we might not necessarily be united by ideology. We have on one hand communists, we are on another hand socialists. I'm a centrist, a social-centered social democrat. So while the ideology might not unite us, the issues must unite us. And if we put humanity first, I think that trumps it. And sometimes, remember, you cannot please everybody. At every point of my journey in this revolution, I have faced online critics. So for me, that's nothing, it's nothing new. However, in building trust, I am saying to those who believe me, I will lead you into a dialogue in 2025. Okay. We will go forward. And if that does not work, the streets are open. I will go back to the streets.
What's in for the youth if they decide to follow you in this dialogue path?
A better Kenya, for sure. Because we will articulate those issues as we always have articulated them, and we invite all suggestions, and we'll be writing officially to the office of the president, and we'll be writing to him and inviting him for that kind of dialogue. He's been doing town halls, but now we want to articulate these things outside a political setting. Okay. Yes, while the politics might get us to the table, we want to sit down as Kenyans, people who have Kenya's best interests at heart, and the result is a better Kenya. So that as they talk about the broad-based government, it must include the youth whose present and future are enshrined and entrusted in their power as part of their governance structure.
You're talking about a broad-based government. During the Maandamano, especially in the month of June and July, and there was a time that the president did call for people to come to the table. The youth did not show up.
Yes, and I'm one of the people who did not show up, despite having been invited to the table. At the time, we had ensured we had the temper of the time, the zeitgeist was, we stay as a movement. We do not organize it into a political faction. But a lot has transpired since then.
Was that a mistake?
I wouldn't call it a mistake. I would say that that's all we had access to at the time. That's all we knew. If we knew better, we would have done better. We did the best. We did the very best with what we had. And so for me, I don't see it as a mistake. I see it just as a lapse in strategy. If I knowing what I know now, we would have come to the table and we would have been a part of how the country is being run and part of the governance structure.
If you
but all is not lost.
If you could just paint a picture of what going to the table, what will that have amounted to from where you sit right now, having the privilege of that you have right now to see things from a different perspective?
I think we would have gotten positions in the cabinet, and then now we would have put our leadership skills to test. We would have gotten positions as permanent secretaries. Would have gotten positions as part of the same positions that we're clamoring for. Because now, see that the political class for even the appointing authority, which is the president, has gone for the people who we had said, keep these people off. but it's seemingly that these are the people who've showed up for dialogue. So what I'm saying now is, because that has long been the excuse, that we did not show up for dialogue, now we shall show up and see what is in it for us on that table of governance, and we shall reinvent it until it actually works for the Kenyan youth and for the Kenyan population in general. Because I would hate to exist in a world that just works for the youth and secludes the older generation or the younger children. Because we have challenges in education, in social welfare, in social protection, in health, in food security, in education. Those kinds of sectors have to be intergenerational. We cannot just think about them as a country that needs to address the problems of the youth, because in that way we might just replace one demagogue for another, and that's not what we're trying to do. We actually are trying to better this country, and if we can do it within the frameworks of the Constitution, even better, and that's what we've always insisted on from the first.
I want to wind up because, but I have two questions I need to ask you. ODM, this is the party, and of course you've explained as to why you've been able to join that particular movement and that particular party right now. And I want to say, to some extent, that is just one party that some people are looking at and saying, okay, we also feel like we've been betrayed by this particular party. It seemed to have rode on the, the movement that was started by the Gen Z to be able to get itself on the table when it comes to positions in matters cabinet. This is the party that you want some of the past, and
Gen Z protests, then by Jove, let's start mentioning names. How many politicians have launched their careers or relaunched their careers based on the protests? People who've held high offices in government, starting by the impeached deputy president, who thinks that now he's a voice for the people. And we know he is not a good leader. He has not been a good leader. You've even seen exposés of him trying to bar investigations on previous deaths. We can go on and on. We can talk about part of the people who orchestrated 2007, who are showing up in and trying to pontificate themselves. And because they have tangible skills that they can offer, for example, legal, they think we have forgotten. There are very many people who've suddenly now come here and use this as a springboard to form political parties, when we had agreed that we will not form political parties out of that. and people are saying that this party, my party, has taken advantage of the Gen Z protests. What has the Right Honorable Raila Odinga gained from this protest?
He had close to 5 members of his party to actually join the cabinet.
Well, he was given 4. And if we are going to go that direction, look at how he distributed the positions. Because there has been a recent appointment, and we know whose hand they are serving. They are at the height of business. Well, for me, I've lost everything. I do not have a career. I do not have those kinds of things. Now I'm just actually in it, for the sake of Kenya. And that's the thing which I'm trying to say, that this thing for trying to mudsling, I will not subject human lives. The human lives we lost. Condolences to the families. The people who are going to bear the brunt of war, the unnecessary police violence, and extrajudicial killings for the rest of their lives. I cannot subject that to activism. For me, I'm looking at the shortest path to the liberation, the true liberation of the Kenyans. Whether or not it's popular or not, I'm looking at this and saying, we have the highest chance. We have always fought for, my party is the one that fought for this constitution. My party is the one that has stretched, my party leader, Raila Odinga, His Excellency, he's the one who has stretched electoral laws in this country more than any other individual. While we find a lot of people pontificating and ex-government officials, while they were in government, they did not put those changes. My party leader has not been in government. So as a government in waiting, some of these questions will have to be weighed against, because we had a choice. People had a choice to vote right, and they choose another one. So now we are saying, because we will not get a bullet revolution, we must get a ballot revolution. Until we get that ballot revolution, this is just a reminder that we cannot be, as Kenyans, to want to talk from both sides of the mouth, to want to have our cakes and eat to eat our cakes and have them still.
No, I'm winding up on this one, but you say you lost everything. Do you have any regrets?
Not at all. It's just that it was unexpected. I would do this all over again, because after 2022, I had said that I would want to involve myself and offer myself up for leadership in whatever capacity. I do not regret anything that I've done for my country. And to anyone who's saying that they feel betrayed, of course, the people who feel betrayed were tribalists. The people who felt betrayed are people who expected me to dance to their own tune. The people who felt betrayed are people who thought that I needed to do things their way. But to the people who believe and know me and believe in my vision and my fight for good governance, accountability, and the war on graft, those people are still telling me they're still cheering me on. And that's what we're saying. even in this dialogue, I will keep it as transparent as I always have, because I have never hidden. It has never suddenly appeared that I was in a backdoor meeting. I always say that this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, if only people cared to listen. And so if we are going to politicize human lives or those kinds of things, that is not what I want to do. I want to straighten Kenya, and the way we are going to do it in 2025 is we will do it through a national dialogue, and we will start with the office of the president.
All right. Something you mentioned, whether some people were in for the money, and I promise this is the last one. So some people were in for the money during the process itself, and during the movement when you're taking to the streets and all that. Were you ever approached?
I was, but I cannot necessarily say that it was this person or this person. But there are people who offered me, who told me, Kijana tulia, you could come and we sit down to solution what your problems are. If it's a house you need or a car or some money, just let us know and we can sort that out.
Do you know of some of the people that were part of the movement that actually settled for that?
They didn't settle for that, but they settled for very interesting offers. And I'm not here to discredit the movement, because for me, what I said, and this is why a lot of them, you would find them chanting must go by day, by night they're trying to secure appointments in State House. You find them saying down with American imperialism by day, by night they're trying to go to, they're saying McMillan must go, by night they want to go to the American embassy. So a lot of them, if you think about it, very many people went on very expensive holidays, paid for by international companies. Very many people collected a lot of money, paid for by international and local people. But I'm one of the few patriots who stayed and did not take the public's money or try to swindle them. And remember, people wanted to politicize things like even lives of children. When there was the fire at Endara.
Thank you so much for this particular interview tonight, to try and make sense of your ambitions are when the year 2025 comes. Of course, you'll be just here to follow up on that and try to see where you lead the youth of the Orange Democratic Movement. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this particular interview. My name, as always, is Brian Amwai.
Brian Amwai for that great interview with Kasmuel Mcoure. He says he's not a traitor. Instead, he has just taken a different route, which is dialogue. Keep your comments coming in as far as that interview is concerned via social media platforms at K24 TV, at Joel Chacha, as well on SMS and WhatsApp numbers on the bottom of your screens. We take a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
I see a situation. Mighty Father, open heaven over these people and bring the reign of the latter glory in the mighty name of Jesus. Now I see people running. Everything will happen today. Everything will happen here. It is raining. The Lord has answered. The Lord has answered. It is raining. It is raining.
Odibet Pepe na Mbuzi is here. Wekelea cash bet on these select crash games. Upepe na Mbuzi ya Christmas. Odibet, bet extraordinary.
Tonight, will you be a believer or a non?
Angukia welcome bonus. Only on Mozart. Karibishwa kama mgeni. Register now on mozartbet.co.ke to angukia free bets and a free spins bonanza. Kuwa mshindi. Mozartbet.
People Daily, Kenya's trusted newspaper, is making history as the first daily to go fully digital. By transitioning from print to the PD News app, we are delivering the same exceptional journalism you've relied on for years in a completely new way to experience it. It's news for today and the future.
Christmas.
K24 Sports News, powered by Mozart Bet.
Angukia welcome bonus. Only on Mozart. Karibishwa kama mgeni. Register now on mozartbet.co.ke to angukia free bets and a free spins bonanza. Kuwa mshindi. Mozart Bet.
Welcome back. It's time to now get sporty. Double Olympic champion Beatrice Chebet crowned a golden year as she smashed the women's 5,000 meters world record at the Casa dels Nasos road race held in Barcelona. The 24-year-old finished the race in 13 minutes and 54 seconds to become the first woman to break the 14-minute barrier in the event. Chebet won the 5,000 and the 10,000 gold at the Paris Olympics last year, beat her previous mark by 19 seconds.
Ara sí, escoltem el compte enrere, sortida en aquests moments, ja els tenim en competició. I atenció perquè Beatriz Chebet és que la té al costat, és que estan passant allà darrere, estem veient les motos amb el líder de la prova masculina, Mateo Kiproech, i és que Beatriz Chebet, atenció el que farà avui Beatriz Chebet, atenció el que pots fer avui, a 4,5, quin rècord li regalarà avui a la ciutat de Barcelona Beatriz Chebet, ho va aconseguir l'any passat, doble campiona olímpica, rècord del món de 2.000 metres, i aquí la tenim, camí de la línia arribada de Beatriz Chebet, baixant de 14 minuts, quin tros de rècord per Beatriz Chebet, apropant-se als 13 minuts, que 54 segons. Un any consecutiu, aquí la tenim novament, igual que feia l'any passat, al terra, me les veiem amb Beatriz Chebet, aquest nou rècord del món que acaba d'aconseguir i com ho ha fet i de quina forma. I Beatriz Chebet, una Beatriz Chebet que la veiem aquí, que passa a saludar al públic de Barcelona, que passa a fer-se aquesta fotografia.
Elsewhere, Harambee Stars interim coach Francis Kimanzi has named the final Harambee Stars squad set to travel to Zanzibar for Mapinduzi Cup. Goalkeepers in the traveling squad include Byron Odhiambo, Farouk Shikalo, and Septenius Wekesa. The defenders in the Stars squad are Sylvester Wino, Hanif Wesonga, Alphonse Omija, Brian Okoth, Obud Omar, Siraj Mohammed, Ronnie Onyango, and Daniel Sakari. Meanwhile, the midfielders are Michael Mutinda, Crispin Erambo, Brian Musa, Kelly Madada, Austin Odhiambo, Kenneth Muguna, Ben Stanley Omundi, debutant Mohamed, Boniface Mushiri, Darius Msaga, and James Kinyanjui. The Mapinduzi Cup is set to begin on January 3rd, 2025 in Pemba Island. Kenya is using the tournament to prepare for CHAN. Away from that, Novak Djokovic and Nick Kyrgios were knocked out of the men's doubles in the second round at the Brisbane International after a narrow defeat by top-seeded pairing Nikola Mektic and Michael Venus. The pair lost the first set, the first actually set, but responded well to win the second 6-3 to take the match to a deciding fast to 10 points.
The call for first serve in doubles makes such a difference. They've drawn level after being behind for really most of this tiebreak. What a return! And the comeback is sealed. Top seeds have gone through to the quarterfinals.
Back home, Kurumba Delta Boxing Club in Nyalenda Slum is using boxing to sensitize youths against crime, drug and substance abuse in Kisumu County. According to Stans Okoth, the event aims at promoting boxing talents and reducing crime rate in slums within Kisumu City. The end-year boxing competition brought together 150 boxers from 13 teams.
Nilishapigana msichana mara moja, akanigonga saa, hata mimi nikarudi nikamgonga, so I'm very proud.
Kama nimeona hii kitu mtaani isaidie mayouth wetu, kama mchezaji mimi sina mengi, nashukuru tu God na izidi kutusaidia na mayouth wetu pia waone hii ni sport.
This year we felt it's wise to bring these sports in this region to help the youth to maybe improve their talents.
The reason why we started this initiative, Nyalenda has been faced with issues of crime, and at some point I was involved in this crime thing, and we are coming back to the society to tell the people that crime doesn't pay.
K24